Okay, so in our last videos we talked about adding and subtracting equations with variables, and there's also some videos on what is an equation, what is a variable. You can go back to my previous videos and watch those if you're not sure. So today we're going to talk about multiplication and division equations. So just like adding and subtracting, we've talked about opposite, or what we call inverse operations, okay? So when we had addition and subtraction equations, when in one side of the equation there was an addition sign, then we subtracted that number to get the variable by itself. So an opposite or inverse operation, an example of that would be when we add, the opposite would be to subtract. When we subtract, we add. So now we're going to get into when there's multiplication, we're going to perform the inverse operation, which is divide. Or if there's division, then we are going to multiply. Okay, I'll give you examples of these. Let's do example 1. Let's say I have 9 times A equals 54. Now remember, 9 times A is our variable, equals 54. This is an equation. We have an equal sign. So we want to keep the equation balanced. This side should always equal this side, okay? But we want to solve for A, which is our variable, could be X. Now remember that little dot means multiplication. Now, I want to show you something. You're not going to always see that dot for multiplication or the X that we're always used to. When you start getting into multiplication and division equations, you're going to see 9A equals 54. So they're not going to give you an operation symbol. You're just going to have to remember that when you have a number and a variable right next to it, like closely next to that, without an operation separating them, this means 9 times A equals 54. Okay? All right. So we want to get A by itself on one side of the equation so we can solve for what A is. Now, whether you know or you don't know what 9 times blank, what that number is that equals 54, you need to know how to do these steps, because when we get into bigger numbers, this is going to help you out. So we have multiplication. The operation is multiplication here. We want to get A by itself. So I am going to divide. Remember, when there's multiplication, we divide. So the fraction bar means to divide. 9 divided by 9. And whatever I do to one side, I got to do to the other, just like with the addition and subtraction equations. So now I have 9A divided by 9 equals 54 divided by 9. To keep the balance, I have to keep it on both sides. So remember what we know when we have a number over another number, the same number, 9 divided by 9, is just 1. So I am just going to X those out because they cancel each other out. And I'm left with 1A. And 54 divided by 9 is 6. So I get my solution here. A equals 6. Now to check to see if my solution is correct, I'm going to plug it in to the equation, the beginning equation. 9 times, put parentheses, 6, because A equals 6. I'm plugging the 6 in for A, equals 54. 9 times 6, that is 54. So 54 equals 54. My solution works. So that is correct. Let's do another example. Now I have 18 equals 6D. =18 = 6D. Okay, now an equation can also be written this way, with the answer and the variable on the right hand side. That's okay, it's the same thing as this one. So remember, this means 6 times D. So we have multiplication, we want to get to the variable by itself. So I'm going to divide by 6. So 6 can cancel each other out on this side. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So 18 divided by 6 is 3. And these 6's cancel each other out. So I'm left with 3 equals D. Let's check our answer. 18 equals 6. I'm going to plug in 3 for D. 6 times 3, that is 18. So 18 equals 18. My solution is correct. All right, so those are multiplication equations. Let's go on to division. Division is also very simple, so I don't want you to get hung up on it looking weird, or so let's try to get used to this. Let's do an example. Let's say I have x over 5 equals 10. Now once again, we've been doing a lot of these. The fraction bar means to divide. So I have x divided by 5 equals 10. Okay, now back up to our inverse operations or opposite operations. When there's division, then we've got to multiply to get our x by itself. So we have x divided by 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it like this. So I need to multiply by 5 to get x by itself because we divided by 5. So I'm going to put a little dot. You could put an x if you want to. Sometimes the x's get mixed up with the variable x. So I'm going to use a little dot. That means to multiply 5. So I need to do it to one side and then multiply by 5 on the other side. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So when I multiply by 5 here, this is like 5 over 1. I remember when we multiply, these are just going to end up canceling each other out. So I could just cancel those 5's out, and I'm left with x over 1, or just x here. And now I have 10 times 5 here, which is 50. So here's my solution. Let's check it. Let's plug in 50 for x. Back up into this original equation. 50 over 5, or 50 divided by 5, equals 10. So let's see. 50 divided by 5, that is 10. I'm running out of space here. I'll just write it real small. 10 equals 10. So my solution is correct. You always want to go back and plug in your variable into the original equation. You can self-check your answers to see if you got a correct answer. All right, last example, and then we're going to try some of these on our own, okay? Let's do another division equation. I have 15 equals r over 2, or r divided by 2. I'm going to rewrite this. 15 equals r over 2. Now I have r divided by 2, and just like this equation, whenever you divide by a number, you're going to multiply to get the x by itself on one side of the equal sign. So we're going to do that same thing here. I have r divided by 2. I want to get r by itself so I could find out what r is. So I'm going to multiply by 2. Remember, this means multiply. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So here, the 2's cancel each other out. I'm left with r, and 2 times 15 is 30. So the solution I come up with is r equals 30. Let's check our answer. 15 equals, I'm going to plug in 30 for r back into our original equation. 30 over 2. 30, let's check our answer. 30 divided by 2 is 15. So my equation is balanced. 15 is equal to 15. So my solution is correct. R equals 30. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and let you guys do these on your own. If you have any problems, go back to previous lessons. They can help you out. If you have any other questions, go ahead and feel free to message me. Alright, have a great day.